What if all your life of being the rock has been both your greatest power and your deepest jail? You've learned to stand tall, caretaking, leading, performing competence, mature, strong, reliable. But late at night when the world quiets down, there's that ache, that longing. The parts of you you've silenced, tears you let go unshed, anger you denied, desires you called unworthy. What price have you paid being mature? I remember a woman in her early 50s. Her career, her family, her responsibilities, they all saw her as solid, capable, unbreakable. But she told me, sometimes I feel nothing but tiredness inside, like I swallowed my own soul for everyone else. She didn't know she'd been carrying her shadow, a fear of not being seen unless perfect, of being rejected if she showed weakness. She'd buried so much of herself under duty, under the mask of, I've got this. Carl Jung would say that the shadow you hide never disappears, it only grows louder in the dark. This video will help you see what you've hidden, how those hidden truths once faced can liberate you. Stay with me, because the freedom you've been waiting for is on the other side of hiding. 1. The hidden shadow in mature woman identity. There's a version of womanhood that society reveres. Mature, composed, unfazed. The one who keeps her family together, guides others, handles her work, maintains her grace. She's wise, she's calm. She's the one everyone calls when their world is falling apart. But here's the truth, most never speak. Sometimes she feels like hers is falling apart, and no one notices. Carl Jung would say she's living from a persona, an image crafted for the world but not for the soul, and the more flawless that image becomes, the more parts of herself she hides. This is where the shadow begins. For the mature woman, the shadow is often not wild or chaotic. It's quiet. It's the desire to be held, the sadness she never cried, the creativity she never explored, the fears she deemed irrational, the moments she wished someone would say, you don't have to be strong today. But she doesn't ask for that. She doesn't show it, because maturity in her world has meant sacrifice. Jung warned us, the longer you disown parts of yourself, the more you'll feel a gnawing emptiness inside. It's not depression. It's not burnout. It's the soul knocking, asking, when will you remember me? 2. Why strong can be a prison. Strength, real, radiant, grounded strength, is beautiful. But when strength becomes a performance, a shield, a coping strategy, it becomes a prison. Carl Jung believed that the persona, the role we create to function in society, is necessary. But when you confuse it for your identity, you begin to lose touch with the truth of who you are. The strong woman. Persona is seductive. It's praised, it's rewarded, it gives you something to lean on when everything else feels unstable. But here's the cost. You forget how to fall apart. You forget how to ask for help. You become functional, but no longer free. I spoke with a woman in her late 40s who said, I can't even tell when I'm tired anymore. I just keep going. That's the persona at work. It numbs, it blinds, it convinces you that your worth lives in what you do, how well you hold everyone else together, how little you need. Jung would say this is the beginning of soul loss, not dramatic, just slow, subtle, death by excellence. And beneath it, the shadow waits, that tender, quiet voice that says, I miss myself. 3. What you've been hiding. Common shadow themes for mature women. For mature women, the shadow isn't always explosive. It's layered, complex, grown in silence. These are not just random flaws. They are unclaimed powers, buried emotions, forgotten truths. The shadow may hold unexpressed anger, anger at a world that taught you your feelings were too much. It might hold shame for wanting more than you were given permission to desire. It might hold creativity, a version of yourself who wanted to dance, paint, speak, but was told that wasn't realistic. It often holds grief for the girl you used to be, for the life you never fully lived, for the parts of you that had to grow up too soon. Jung said, the shadow is everything a person refuses to acknowledge about themselves. But the shadow isn't here to shame you. It's here to free you. What you've been hiding isn't weakness, it's your wholeness. And the moment you stop rejecting it, you don't just feel more. It's like your soul comes back online, because your shadow is not your enemy. It's your exiled genius waiting to return. 4. Anima/animus and inner polarities. Carl Jung taught that within each of us lives both the masculine and the feminine, the animus and the anima. These aren't about gender, they're energies, forces, archetypes that shape how we relate to ourselves and to the world. For the mature woman, especially one who's worn the armor of strength for decades, these inner polarities are often out of balance. Her animus, the inner masculine, may dominate her life, structured, goal-oriented, rational, responsible. It served her, it protected her, but over time it may have silenced her anima, her inner feminine, the part of her that feels, that dreams, that flows. This imbalance shows up everywhere. In relationships where she leads but doesn't receive. In moments of exhaustion where softness feels like a threat. In the disconnect from her body, her pleasure, her creativity. Jung didn't ask us to choose between these energies. He asked us to integrate them because when a woman reconnects with her anima, she doesn't become less powerful, she becomes more alive. Her intuition sharpens, her heart opens, her voice softens without weakening. She no longer needs to dominate, she simply radiates. And in that balance, the shadow begins to dissolve, not through effort, but through reunion. 5. The body as messenger. The unconscious speaks in symbols, and the body is one of its favorite languages. When the psyche is overwhelmed, when the shadow is ignored, when the soul has been silenced for too long, it speaks through the flesh. Carl Jung called this the somatic cry of the unconscious, the symptoms that appear when we've gone too long without truth. For mature women, this often looks like fatigue that no amount of sleep can fix, a heaviness in the chest, chronic tension, a voice that literally goes quiet. You tell yourself you're just aging, just stressed. But what if your body is saying something deeper? What if your symptoms are sacred? I remember a woman who said she hadn't cried in years, but her eyes constantly burned. Another who had jaw pain so intense she couldn't speak without strain. When we explored her past, we found decades of unspoken words, repressed rage, things she swallowed to keep the peace. Jung would say the body becomes the final canvas for the soul's message. It's not betraying you, it's begging you to listen. Your tight shoulders may be holding generations of expectations. Your migraines may be echoing decisions made from duty, not desire. Healing begins not when you fix the body, but when you feel what it's been holding. 6. The courage to face the shadow. Jung's tools. To face the shadow is not an act of ego, it's an act of soul. Carl Jung didn't offer simple steps or shallow affirmations. He offered depth, he offered confrontation, because the shadow doesn't disappear when you ignore it. It waits, and the moment you stop running is the moment healing can begin. But make no mistake, facing the shadow takes courage. It asks you to sit with the feelings you've spent a lifetime suppressing. It asks you to meet the parts of yourself that are messy, jealous, rageful, needy, and say, "You're welcome here." Jung's tools are simple, but they require depth. One is active imagination, a process of dialoguing with inner figures, emotions, or symbols. You might close your eyes and speak to the anger that scares you. You might imagine the younger version of yourself who still feels abandoned, and listen, not fix, just listen. Another tool, dream analysis. Jung believed dreams are not random, they're messages from the unconscious, revealing the parts of you you've rejected. That recurring dream of being chased, that could be your unlived life running after you. That image you wake with, of water, fire, animals, strangers, these are not just symbols, they are mirrors. Jung's work invites you to ask, what part of me have I exiled? And what would happen if I let her speak? Journaling becomes more than reflection, it becomes resurrection. You don't write to be neat, you write to bleed honestly. You let the parts you've buried pour onto the page. And slowly through these practices, the shadow stops feeling like a threat. It starts feeling like a companion. Rough, yes. Unpredictable, yes. But sacred, because it holds the energy you need to become whole. 7. Integration. What freedom looks like. There's a moment in shadow work that hits like a storm, and then settles like sunlight. After the fear, after the resistance, after the weeping and the revelations, there's a calm. Not the calm of perfection, but the calm of truth. Jung didn't promise that facing your shadow would make life easier. He promised it would make life real. Integration doesn't mean you never feel pain again. It means pain no longer defines you. You stop reacting from the child who wasn't seen. You stop choosing partners who echo your deepest wounds. You stop chasing validation from people who don't even know your soul. Because now, you know yourself. Freedom through integration is quiet. It's in the way you wake up in your own rhythm. The way you say no and don't explain. The way you look in the mirror and don't flinch. It's in the way you parent yourself gently, the way you cry and feel no shame, the way you let others see your softness and no longer fear it'll be used against you. Jung's integration is not becoming someone new. It's remembering who you were before the world told you to hide, and when that remembering returns, so does your freedom, not just emotional, but energetic, creative, spiritual, embodied. 8. challenges along the journey. Make no mistake, this isn't a romantic path. It's a raw one, because the moment you decide to face the shadow, the entire world you built to avoid it begins to shake. People may resist your change. They were comfortable with the version of you who never said no, who always smiled, who made things easy. Now you're setting boundaries. You're saying what you feel. You're letting your tears be seen, and not everyone will cheer for that. Some will say, "You've changed," and they'll be right. Jung warned, individuation, the path to wholeness, means stepping outside the collective approval. It means being true, even if it's uncomfortable. There will be days you feel like you're regressing. You'll feel more sensitive, not less. More emotional, not more controlled. This is not failure. It's the psyche thawing. Emotions rising because they finally have permission. You'll have to face the guilt of saying no, the fear of being misunderstood, the shame of not being everything to everyone, and that's when you remember Jung's words. What you most need will be found where you least want to look. And the beautiful irony is, the more you walk through these shadows, the lighter you become. The woman who emerges on the other side is not weaker, she's wiser. She's not softer because she gave up, she's softer because she finally returned. 9. Everyday practices to free the hidden self. You don't need a retreat. You don't need a perfect plan. You need rituals, small sacred acts that say to your soul, "I see you now." Start by giving yourself 10 minutes each morning, before the emails, before the caregiving, before the roles. Sit in stillness, feel your body, breathe into the places that ache. Ask yourself, what am I feeling? What have I been hiding? Let it come. Not to fix, not to solve, but to witness. Keep a shadow journal. Write without editing. Let your unspoken truths hit the page without shame. Make art, even if it's messy. Move your body without performing. Dance, cry, rest. You are not doing this to be productive. You're doing this to return. Create sacred space in your home that belongs only to you. A chair, a corner, a candle, something that says, "Here, I am not the mother, not the leader, not the helper. I am simply me." When hard emotions come, don't override them. Welcome them. Put your hand on your heart and whisper, "You're safe now." This is the deepest form of reparenting, giving to yourself what the world once asked you to give away. And every time you choose these practices, no matter how small, you reclaim another piece of your shadow. You become less of a stranger to yourself. And that is freedom. 10. Living with depth, not just appearances. There comes a moment, quiet, often unnoticed, when you realize you're no longer living for the image. You're no longer chasing the performance of maturity, the appearance of strength, the exhausting illusion of being fine. You are simply being, and in that being, there is a depth that wasn't there before. Not because you've solved everything, but because you've faced everything. Carl Jung believed that depth isn't something you earn, it's something you remember. A woman who has met her shadow doesn't shine brighter by being perfect, she radiates because she's whole. You start to notice the shift in subtle ways. You speak more slowly. You smile less out of politeness and more from presence. You don't rush to fill silence. You let it breathe. You're not performing intimacy. You're feeling it. You find joy not just in what you do, but in how deeply you experience it. Conversations are richer. Friendships are more honest. You attract people who meet you in the soul, not just in the story. You become less tolerant of anything that drains your light because now you've tasted truth. And once you know what it feels like to live in alignment, you can't go back. This is the gift Jung gave us, not escape, but embodiment, not bypassing pain, but building a relationship with it, not being less emotional, but more attuned. You are not empty, you are not lost, you are not broken, you are becoming. And the woman who lives from her shadow and her light, she is dangerous to a culture that thrives on disconnection, because she feels everything, and that feeling, deeply, honestly, unapologetically, is what makes her free.